Greetings, fellow denizens of the internet. My name is Sergio Bosque, and this here is my first video. After popular demand for it, I have decided to create this channel to provide some commentary in English about Spanish affairs, although I will probably end up going into more international matters and into complete randomness. So, for my first few videos, I figured I'd give you guys an introduction about what the Spanish political environment is like at the moment. So, we shall start with everyone's favorite dead horse, feminism. So, this here is an article that came out some months ago in the newspaper of one of the biggest workers' union in Spain. It's called a brief decalogue of proposals for the feminist school. At this moment, we see the first issue with this document. A decalogue is, as its name implies, a list of 10 points. This is 19 points. It is almost two decalogues. It is almost two decalogues, but they call it a brief one. And actually, in the end, it says, this is an open decalogue. Send us your proposals and we will add them. Let us imagine together the feminist school we want. Anyway, apart from these people not knowing how to use words, let us proceed into them not knowing how to use brains. The introduction says, Bell Hooks, an dear author and feminist master, all caps, from whom we learn, says that feminism is a movement to end sexism, sexist exploitation, and oppression. Hooks, 2017, Feminism is for Everyone. Some of you may know of Bell Hooks already, the woman who taught Anita Sarkeesian all she knows. I am very happy to see her cited in my country now and described as dear author and feminist master. Yes, my friends, the dear leader who will teach us all about the truth of phallocentric oppression. Well, next they tell us about the authors of this wonderful text. The first one is Juan Yera Moreno, artist, investigator, and educator. Okay? And the next is Melanie Pena, professor of the Faculty of Education of the Complutense University of Madrid. Wonderful, a professor. Let us see what this lady teaches her students. So, quote, we could choose many descriptions of feminism, but we like the one from Bell Hooks because when she speaks of sexism, she points radically at all those social patriarchal structures that pierce us all. Okay, I feel I should point out something here. In Spanish, like all non-barbaric languages, uh, gender plural pronouns have gender forms too. So todos is masculine for us all. Todas is the feminine form. Some people interpret the letter E as the gender neutral letter. This is why these professors say here todos, todas y todes. Todes is not a word. Please speak your language correctly. So as I was saying, that pierce us all, which we have learned in and where we have been socialized, feminine form. Nobody is safe from them. Ooh. And those sexist prejudices, even when we think we are safe, emerge within each of us, feminine form, when we least expect them. Terrifying, I am sure. The school is not an exception. Mind that they use the word escuela and not colegio. Escuela is normally used in Spanish to refer from the low level schools such as preschool and primary school. Keep in mind these proposals of them are probably directed towards children of below 12 years old. So they continue. As a device of power knowledge that it is, using the terminology of Foucault, the Spanish feminist keeps citing Foucault. I wonder if he would like them doing so. Anyway, the school is an institution pierced by sexism, as well as racism, classism, and along etc. with isms. Well, imagine my shock. In that it has a role of reproduction and legitimation of certain social norms. In that it teaches us, feminine form, in and with said norms, the school teaches us how to behave and how to relate to other people and with ourselves, feminist form, how to understand the world and our position in it. And it does so under those social parameters which it legitimizes and reproduces and which therefore are sexist, racist, classist, colonialist, ableist. Wasn't that a mouthful? So let's just pause for a moment to recap. These people say that, as a device of power knowledge, it is pierced by sexism and all the other isms. And this means that it is a tool to reproduce social norms and therefore sexist. In no place does it show us Is it sexist? In no way does it give any proof to its claim. They just say school is power, school is pierced by sexism, therefore school is sexist. Good, let us proceed. A space for the social revolution. Yes, yes. A school full of 80-year-old kids is a perfect place for the social revolution. They say, but the school is also, can be, and should be, a space for the social revolution, transformation and subversion, to question and to question ourselves, to wonder why things are how they are and how they should be different, to throw away all those prejudices and norms that damage us and marginalize us, to think ourselves as different, female form, and to imagine the world and its fictions in different and better ways. Because of that, we believe in the revolutionary potential of the school, in its power of transformation and subversion, in radical feminist queer pedagogy that will turn the school into a strange place, away from the normativity which it is surrounded with. Every revolution commences small. We will never stop imagining a better world. We will not conform with what we have, and because of this, we propose this brief decalogue with a few ideas to imagine together, feminine form, a feminist school. To dream about it and build it, blah 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 blah. Motivational feminist speech. Below it says, if you do not understand or do not agree with any of these proposals, we suggest you read these feminist authors that will help us understand them. To begin, we suggest you read a long list of feminist charlatans. If after reading them you still do not understand, we suggest you focus on your own sexist prejudices that pierce you, you reject them, and you start thinking in another way. Translation. If you disagree with us, then you are wrong, and you should read our propaganda from our cult leaders until you agree. If you continue not understanding, you are infected of the original sin, and you must reject your inner devil and yourself and accept enlightenment. Accept feminism into your brain and let it shape your thought. This is reminding me of the Far Cry 5 death cult already. Awesome. Point 1. Educate the professors of the schools in feminism. A basic program of education for the teachers should include at least the following: history of feminism, importance of inclusive language, use of a non-marginalizing language, and learning of competitivity, misogynism and heterosexism, consent and ways of positive relationship, speaking from a listening and dialoguing attitude, and care and affection. Care and affection. So you want the teachers to be taught all about your culture and its ideas, and you want them to unlearn competitivity. You want teachers to teach their kids to not be competitive, to encourage them to be all the same, all mediocre. All you want them to learn in care and affection. You want them to turn into babysitters, to cheerleaders who don't encourage their student to compete and better themselves, but who clap with their ears at mediocrity. And do it while being the fucking care bears? Also, might I mention that they want to teach them about consent? Why is sexual consent an issue in a school? Point 2. Using the school by the whole staff of a non-misogynist language. Using the feminine form to speak to the neutral gender, or using e, for example, todes. Acclaration. In Spanish, when referring to a group of individuals of both genders, both as in two, because there are only two genders, you are supposed to use the masculine form. This is, of course, misogynist, as it excludes the female form. This, of course, means that you should use the female instead, which is not exclusive, not at all. Or invent a whole new, grammatically incorrect speech. Good. Point 3. Include at least the same amount of books written by women as those written by men in the Spanish literature subject, because quantity matters. Examples of books and authors to include: I'm not reading that list, I am too lazy. But I do want to point out that they happen to be the same people as the feminist propaganda they recommended above. Imagine my shock. This is starting to get scary. They want you to change the books and the curricula, and then add the books of the party sanctioned writers. Does this remind anyone of the popularity of Wagner in 1930s Germany? No? Hmm. Point 4. Include at least the same amount of women philosophers as men in the philosophy subject. Examples of philosophers to include: the same list as the above mentioned authors, with some few additions, like Hypatia of Alexandria. Look, I remember when I did philosophy at school. It was my favorite subject, and my teacher was the best teacher I ever had. If you're watching this, Victor, thank you for everything, man. But anyway, I remember the philosophers we studied: the pre-Socratics, Socrates, Plato, Aristotle, Saint Augustine, Saint Thomas, David Hume, Descartes, the French, Kant, Karl Marx, Nietzsche, and Ortega y Gasset, just to add some Spanish philosopher in the end. These philosophers happen to be the most relevant to world history. Of course, I would have loved to study more of them, but the time was limited, so we had to study only the ones which shaped Western culture and philosophical thought, and one Spanish one. That is why we didn't have time to study Judith fucking Butler, American philosopher and gender theorist whose work has influenced political philosophy, ethics, and the fields of third wave feminist, queer, and literary theory. Author of Gender Trouble, Feminism and the Subversion of Identity, supporter of Hamas and Hezbollah, which she considered, quote, social movements that are progressive, that are on the left, that are part of a global left. Point 5. Feminize the subject of art history and culture. There are female artists, directors, and art historians, and female photographers. Name them, make their work known. Here, some names to begin. Oh, what do you know? I'm not going to read the list. These people seem to think that female people's work is more relevant than male people. The thing is, darlings, at a school, we learn about the most relevant personalities, the greatest geniuses, and they just happen to be, a long history, majority male. Why? Well, it might have to do with how, for most of history, women didn't go to school, often didn't even learn to read. This might be because society actually was patriarchal in the past. Maybe the fact that women now attend schools and you've got the chance to bitch and moan on the page of a big workers' union about how you don't like what school is like, maybe this proves that society is no longer patriarchal. Maybe it proves that you're just being a bunch of whiny feminists. Point 6. Change the curriculum in science. Fucking science. Speak of her, of her investigations and additions to physics, maths, medicine, astronomy, because Marie Curie, Ada Lovelace, Rachel Carson, and others existed. Well, I don't know about you, love, but we actually did study about Marie Curie. We did so in physics and in chemistry. But I do have to wonder, however, why are you more concerned with who discovered the science we learn than about what science we learn? Is gravity patriarchal because it was discovered by Newton, a man, and rotation feminist because it was discovered by Marie Curie, a woman? You are aware that they both existed in nature before they were discovered, and still, we did study Marie Curie. Maybe you didn't study her. Maybe if you hadn't gone to study gender studies and education and whatever, and had studied physics at school, maybe you would be surprised by how much everyone likes Marie Curie, because she was pretty awesome. Also, she was Polish. She might not have liked your gender communist much. Just saying. Point 7. Eliminate books. Eliminate books written by misogynist authors from the obligatory reads of the students. Wonderful. Let us burn books. Hail victory, my sisters. Examples of misogynist authors: Pablo Neruda, Pérez Reverte, and Javier Marías. These are three Spanish-speaking authors, so let's see. Pablo Neruda is a Nobel Prize-winning Chilean author, a communist, also awarded the Lenin Peace Prize, known for absolutely wonderful poetry. I recommend him. And Arturo Pérez Reverte is a Spanish writer, a patriot, author of the famous A la Triste series. Never in my life have I heard him say anything misogynist, but I suppose his love for the period of history when Spain was an empire and his accurate portrayal of it in his books makes him a misogynist. Speak about the misogynist aspect of certain hegemonic authors. Explain what they said about women, authors like Rousseau, Kant, or Nietzsche. It will help us to have another perspective of history and its values. Add authors who supported equality and the feminist movement, like Poulain de la Barre, French, and John Stuart Mill. Yet again, here we are. We promoted party sanctioned books before, and now we are forbidding the books from the undesirables. No Jewish authors or science in my Germany, thank you very much. Point 8. Do not separate the bathrooms between men and women. The bathroom can be a common space if it is thought that they should be. Let us think the spaces in another way, without stigmatizing them and turning them into possible spaces of conflict. I feel like you are putting a lot of consideration into a place where you literally go to take a shit. In what way does it hurt to have male and female bathrooms separated? They tend to be differently equipped. The male ones need those wall toilet thingies and so on. I I sort of feel that what you want here is to destroy barriers and separations and distinctions between the genders. I do suspect, however, that after you make mixed bathrooms, your next move will be to make only female bathrooms, because girls need a safe space. Am I wrong? Point 9. The curriculum of physical education must be common to all students. The criteria of evaluation should be different according to many factors, but in no case because the person who is going to be evaluated is a woman or a man, supposedly. Let us include other ways of understanding the body and living it. So the supposedly a man or a woman part bothers me, but this is not necessarily that wrong. It always pissed me off when I was in PE, breaking my back, and I saw my female classmates, national volleyball champions and whatnot, passing the exams easily because the requirements were much lower. It bothered me because the argument here is that the difference between male and female physical capacity, but I was 12 at the moment. 12-year-old boys look like children. They are children. And the girls are already teenagers. My legs were about half a meter long. I was doing my absolute best, and I was failing. Maybe there should be another way of measuring these tests, especially taking into account how the grades in them directly impact your ability to enter certain universities, even if in a small degree. I just think that it's wrong to assume all women will be weaker than all men in PE. Just saying. Point 10. Do not worry, the retardation is back and as strong as ever. Deheterosexualize the school. Deheterosexualize the school. Do not make heterosexuality the norm. Think that the world is enormously diverse and a school is too. Well, love, you're right. The world is diverse, but the immense majority of people are heterosexual. But this is irrelevant. This doesn't even matter. Why the fuck do you care about heterosexuality or homosexuality in a school full of kids? Point 11. Have specific subjects of sexual education as well as gender equality in every year of every stage. Every year of every stage. Have 3-year-old preschool kids being taught sexual education. Am I the only one wanting to burn stuff? So, these specific subjects will also cover the obligatory education of the teachers in these matters, because the prejudices and stereotypes also pierce us as teachers, because we are a fundamental part of the perpetuation and legitimation of a patriarchal and heterosexist system. I don't even know. I don't even know what to say to this, so let's move on to point 12. Forbid football in the recess. Forbid football in the recess. Wonderful. Glorious. Sexism is now solved. So, forbid football in recess. Let us make this recess into a friendly space where everyone can exist, transit, and live in this common space. Let us leave aside these competitive games that monopolize the spaces and exclude those who don't want to participate. Why football fields and not dance fields? Exclude those who don't want to participate. That's the whole point of not wanting to participate, that you want to be excluded. But, well, because the majority of people in the recess want to play football. That is why football fields and not dance fields. I didn't like football when I was in school, so I didn't play it. I just didn't play it. It was an option. I didn't ask for the people who did like football to be suppressed, and I didn't ask them to be told that they cannot play what they want to play. You have a problem with competitive games. You do. You hate competitiveness. You hate excellence. You hate people being better than other people at anything. Because you are a totalitarian monster. You hate competitiveness, and you're a mad woman who just wants to forbid things and force everyone into your gender Marxist worldviews. You two, authors of this shit of a document, you are terrifying people, and I think you know it. Point 13. Eliminate clothing codes. Teach, through courses and the classrooms, to the teachers and to the students, to respect people regardless of how they dress. Let us set aside that misogynistic prejudice of thinking that some people dress to provoke others. Understand that dressing and what we do with our bodies is part of the individual liberty of each of us, and it has nothing to do with you. Deal with it. Aggressive, isn't it? Deal with it. And it's also wrong. Indeed, some people do dress in provocative ways to provoke others. Women, you see, hold the power, as Jordan Peterson once said. They hold the power and a sort of attraction which they can use to get stuff from men. And they compete with each other to see who of them have the most of this power, to see who can get more shit. This is because in humans, women are the ones who do the sexual discrimination. The clothing codes in schools are there because this is all well and good in life, but has no reason to be in a place of learning. If you want to walk on the street with the biggest cleavage in the history of the universe, I'm okay with it. Do it. Knock yourself out. But at school, you're there to study, not to exert the influence gained from attraction. But this is not the only reason why these codes are there. They are also there because they want to maintain a level of respect towards the teaching institution, which does not happen when you get a dude walking in with Adidas tracksuit pants, a tank top, and wearing an 18th century bicorn on his head. However, I do like how you cite the individual liberty of each of us, though, after you have been shitting on it for the whole document. Point 14. Eliminate the subject of Catholic religion because a feminist school is a secular school. Well, Catholic religion, to those who don't know, is an optional subject in Spanish schools. You can choose to not take it. You, however, have a problem with parents who want to teach their kids Christian values, and you have a problem with them being able to choose the subject for their kids in school. It is a choice. A choice. A free choice. You don't like choices, do you? You prefer to have absolute control over what people do. Because if they choose, they think for themselves. They have their own ideas, born of their own logic and their own agency. And they oppose you and your totalitarian bullshit. And you don't want them studying the incredibly watered down Catholic religion, which I studied, and we're studying fucking Islam in it as well as Christianity. You don't want them to study Catholic religion. You want them to study, as you have proposed above, your own religion, your own feminism, with its own original sin of prejudice and its own rituals of checking your privilege, and with your own cult leaders. Fuck you and fuck your false gods. Hail Odin. Point 15. Change the curriculum of history. That must tell the history of women and the minoritized groups. Where are those stories that we are not told about? Well, those stories are still there. You can find them and you can study them if you want. But excuse me if I study about the stuff that is more relevant. Do you know what characterizes minorities? That they are not the majority. And in history, the impact of a small minority is lesser than that of a big majority. That is why when you study Finnish history, you seldom see any black transgender women fighting the Russian invasion during the Seven Years' War. As for women in history, we do study them. Spain itself was born thanks to a woman, Isabel I of Castilla, an awesome queen who changed world history forever and who would have you burned at the stake for heretics, blasphemers, and witchcraft. Point 16. Forbid the misogynist songs in the school band, because misogyny, sexism, and homophobia are insults and must not be present in our centers. Agreed, agreed. Songs which are actively hateful must not be there. But considering that you find a man opening his legs more than 10 degrees in the metro to be sexist oppression, something tells me you will find anything you want to be sexist. And something tells me you will push your own hateful content because it is impossible to be racist against white people and it is impossible to be sexist against males. Am I right? Point 17. Have feminist music in the schools. For example, you can listen to singers like Rebecca Lane, Cruda Scubensi, Cumbia Queers, Viruta, Alicia Ramos, and La Tía Julia. Search more in YouTube, Spotify, ask, listen, learn. Well, let's just look at what they propose, shall we? K-R-U-D-A-S. Saquen su rosario de nuestro ovario. Saquen su rosario de nuestro ovario. Saquen su doctrina de nuestra vagina. Saquen su doctrina de nuestra vagina. Yep, that butt cancer of a song says, take your rosaries out of our ovaries, take your doctrine out of our vaginas. This is something that should be sung at schools, promoted and taught to kids. Again, the party has certain sanctioned songs that should be promoted and the Untermensch decadent music that should be banned. Point 18. Change the names of the schools. Eliminate every name that is Catholic or make reference to military personalities, politicians, or jurists, and substitute them for women who belong to the feminist movement, or by names of elements of nature. What if we start finding a world where her name counts where it is present? Well, first of all, there are schools with female names. We live in a world where her name counts and is present. I can think of several schools with female names in my city, just off the top of my head. And my first school had a female name, but you have a problem with names of generals, politicians, and jurists. Why? Why these three? People who defend society, people who organize it, and people who shape the law that governs it. Why do you hate these people? And what if these generals or politicians or jurists are women? Yet again, you must change the names of everything, must you? Get the names of the heroes of your movement everywhere, on streets and schools, just as you complain about the names of the Francoist generals being on streets today. Just put a bell hook square in every city. Make your party omnipresent. Remove Francisco Franco Street and add Anita Sarkeesian Street. Why not? Goebbels would be proud. Point 19. Build your own feminist library in your school. Read the book An Own Room of Virginia Woolf and you will understand. Buy books whose main character and author are women. Establish through the staff that within 3 years there must be a similar quantity of books written by women as by men in the library of the center. What if, love, we judge books on their merits instead of who they were written by? I have a dream that my several little scribbles will one day live in a library where they will not be judged by the name on their cover, but by the content of their pages. And yeah, that is the end of that train wreck of a document. You can find the document and the link in the description, of course, but please do not go after these people and leave mean comments on their shit. They are not going to change their ideology for your comments, they will use them as validation for their bullshit. These people are terrifying totalitarians who want to eliminate everything they disagree with because they are misogynist, which is the equivalent of Jewish in their ideology, and replace them with feminist, Aryan, made material. They want you to purge yourself of your original sin of prejudice and accept their god, feminism, into your heart. Do not question it. If you do not understand it, read their holy books, written by their cult leaders, and accept that you are wrong and a sinner. This sort of bullshit must not become mainstream in Spain like it did in the US. It gives me the chills to see this written in Spanish. It terrifies me to see them coming into my country. I hope, fellow Spaniards who are watching this video, that we teach them what we do in Spain with totalitarian asshats who want to take away our basic liberties. This must be stopped.